Hey folks, Matt Sharp here with another Pacific Angler Friday Fishing Report. We are filming for December 13th, so if it's nowhere near December 13th, please click up here. This is a link to all our Friday Fishing Reports, and we do it every week, so we've probably got something more up to date for you. This week, we are looking at the new Fisheries Minister. Bernadette Jordan was sworn in last month, and we're going to take a peek at who she is, and with fingers crossed that maybe a fresh set of eyes will solve some of our political problems that we've been facing in our fisheries. We've also got some really cool fishing footage. If you can stay tuned to the end of the report, we have some footage from what I consider one of the nicest rainbows I've ever seen out of the Squamish River, but it does come with a mild cautionary tale. It had another hook in it besides the one that the angler used to catch it, and unfortunately that did have a barb. So stay tuned for that. It's some fun footage. On a shop front, we announced our 2020 course schedule this week. So all our courses are out for the entire year, and you definitely want to check that out. If you guys don't know, we do a ton of courses at Pacific Angler. We always joke that we have the largest fishing curriculum in North America. That's up for debate, but we've definitely got a lot of courses. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end of the report as well. On the fly front, we have a super cool fly from Andre. It's one that I'm actually going to critique because I've got some mild recommendations of how I would change it to fit how I like to fish, but he has some really cool moves with the material that I loved, and definitely one that, again, a beginner can easily jump into, but some of your advanced guys might look at it and go, hey, that's an interesting way of tying. So we're going to check that out at the back end of the report as well. Now, I have been neglecting you saltwater guys. Now, I'm not going to dress up in a Santa suit and list off a bunch of things you guys need to buy for Christmas, but a cool new product came through, and it is something that I think that most saltwater guys around here have been dying for. So we're going to take a look at the new Grundins boot, which I'm really excited about. It's on my list, and it might be for you guys as well. On the actual fishing front, because that's why you guys are here, we are going to look at the weather in detail. We've got some rain coming down the pipes, but from what I saw last week when I was out guiding, I think we're in for another good one this weekend if we can time the water levels right. I'm going to look at the Squamish, where I was fishing last week. I'm going to look at the Vedder, where we've heard whisperings of steelhead. We're going to touch base on all the major fisheries around the lower mainland. So, as always, if you guys want to see more reports like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button, hit that like button, and let's get into the fishing report. Okay, well, first off, I wanted to thank everybody that brought by wine and beer for me. Thank you, Richard. I'm enjoying the case of Corona that you brought by. It is much appreciated. But let's jump into the fishing side of things. And so what have we got here? First off, in the weather, we do have some rain coming down the pipes. It's fairly substantial, but not too crazy. And as always, I'm filming this Wednesday night, so we're looking at Thursday, Friday, Saturday weather, and then the long-term trend. And so you can see Thursday, we're supposed to get 15 to 20. I'm filming this almost at midnight, so we're almost there on Thursday. That could have some effect on our local rivers. 1 to 3 on Friday, probably not a big effect. And last week we saw this happen as well. We had some rain leading into the weekend, a reasonable amount, but not too much. And the fishing was excellent. It bumped up the rivers, really cool. I was out there, it was great. We're going to talk about that on river levels in a second, but let's take a look up at the Squamish. And when we look at them, they're going to get a touch more water, not much more, 15 to 20, 5 millimeters on Friday as you guys are watching this, and then really nice weather on Saturday and Sunday. We need to look though at the temperatures, and you will see it gets cold on Friday. We're going to have another bump of cold, so it's going to be -1, -3, at least on the night lows. And that should drop the rivers quite quickly. It probably will put us into a low and clear situation by, at the very least, Sunday, if not Saturday. So again, you want to make sure that you're going more towards the clearer presentations or paler presentations or smaller presentations, vice versa what we talked about last weekend where we had some color to a lot of our rivers where we were bumping up those presentation colors. Now let's look on out to Chilliwack, see where we're going there. And the Chilliwack weather will be, as I looked at it before I was setting this up, actually more weather. Wow, they've changed that. That's ironic since I was looking at it about 2 hours ago. So there's actually more weather pushing into the Chilliwack region with 25 to 30 and 10 to 15. That could mean the polar opposite, and the temperatures are getting cooler on Saturday, so that should sort things out. So I still would expect really good fishing for Saturday, Sunday, Monday. into next week, with it getting low and clear by sort of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday if you guys are fishing next weekend. Okay, so let's look at the river levels. We'll pull up Squamish because I sort of have a gauge for it. And we can see exactly what that weather did last weekend. And that's always what we're going to do. When I look at the weather we did last weekend, we went out fishing, want to sort of correlate what will come in the future. And you can see it hit 2.5, 2.6. I was actually out on this day and the fishing was excellent. So you guys can gauge that and say when you see this kind of water, you're going to get about 4 feet, 3 feet of visibility. And water levels that are nice to cover a lot of ground, but it wasn't too high that we couldn't cross in certain places. I actually would have taken more water to have it be at the perfect fishing height, at least for the upper Squamish and the Squamish rivers. You can see it drop down. Now I'm not sure if these are hydro bumps or if they are the little bumps of rain we've been having throughout the week, but we're sitting relatively low at a 2 right now. It'll be really interesting to see what the weather does Thursday, Friday as you guys are watching this, if we get this bump back up. If you see this bump back up and you're heading out, again, perfect conditions for sort of medium color presentations, leaning towards sort of bright. But if you see it lower than this 2.5 coming into the day you're fishing, expect clearer conditions and stuff where you want to look at beads that are pale. You want to look at spoons and spinners that are relatively small, and or if you're float fishing and doing some scouting on that front, smaller gooey bobs, smaller pink rubber worms, that kind of thing, and smaller streamer flies. Okay, now let's talk about the Honorable Bernadette Jordan. I hope I can say that with a straight face come March, April, May. The long story short is our old fisheries minister has moved. Ironically, he's now in charge of environment, which is mildly concerning to me as we saw his track record with dealing with special interest groups pushing him in directions that were not science-based. But the one silver lining that I took away from Bernadette Jordan's appointment is that she's fairly well connected on the East Coast. It may not be our coast, but she's fairly well connected to communities that have relied on fishing for many years. And my hope is that she understands what these changes or implications to a fishery can do to the communities surrounding them. So this is Bernadette Jordan. Do some research on her. We're probably going to hear a little bit more about her in the future, and she's got some really important decisions coming down the pipes. So best wishes to her. Hopefully she moves this in the right direction and she can come at it with a fresh set of eyes. So on the fly front, let's jump into something a little more entertaining than politics. This one is called the Bull Trout Bully. And Andre tied it, and I really enjoyed this because it's very, very simple. Andre loves making flies simple and clean. It's a mylar pattern with a rabbit and then still a dubbing loop spin, but it's a really good one for you beginners if you want to learn all these materials. But for you guys that are advanced, again, just like the video we put out last week on that river rat pattern, links up here if you guys missed that one, this one is going to be a really clean and simple pattern that you can build in multiples in your box of different weights and slightly different color shades. Now, Andre's old school, so he ties a lot of his patterns on shank flies. I said I was going to critique this a bit. If I were personally tying this pattern, I would probably throw it on a shank and with a trailer. I wouldn't have a full hook on it. I just feel that you land more fish when you have that smaller hook that can bend and fold. You could incorporate this into that river rat style pattern that trails into the rabbit out the back. But long story short, super cool pattern, something worth playing around with. And I really like this color combination that he's got specifically for bull trout with a slight yellow hint on an olive and white combination. It will definitely catch a lot of bull trout and, well, rainbows and cutthroat if you're heading up Squamish Way as well as Harrison Way, basically anywhere in the lower mainland that you're fishing for these species. So check that out. I'm going to leave links up here, and I'll throw it down in the links down below too if you miss it there. Now, what do we got next? We have, Grundins boots. Cool. So I promised you guys that I wouldn't put on a Santa Claus hat and pump out a bunch of Christmas stocking ideas. And this isn't actually one of them. I have been neglecting you saltwater guys because we haven't really been having many reports from the winter Chinook fishing. But a product came in and it has really nothing to do with Christmas, but you might be able to tag it onto a Christmas shopping list. And that is the new Grundins boot. So we've been looking for years for the perfect deck boot. They're either too high, too stiff, just not quite right for what we wanted. Simms, funnily enough, came out with one 2 years ago, which was dead on, but then they proceeded to discontinue it and put like a mud sole on it, which was horridly frustrating for all of us. If you have one of those, that's a wicked boot. But I've got the boot right here. It is the Deck Boss. And they just nailed it. It's soft in the ankle, but it's high enough on the ankle that you're going to take a splash and be okay. And it's really comfortable when compared to some of the other boots out there that are sort of stiff and maybe not as good for running around a deck. Good deck sole with just enough to keep you from slipping and sliding. So this one's on my list. We retail it for $129, pretty reasonable price as well. So check that out. We've got full stock at the store. If you're looking for a boot or have been struggling for you saltwater guys out on the decks of your salmon boats, check this guy out. It is the Grundins Deck Bully. Okay, getting away from product, let's jump back into a little bit of a news blip. And don't worry, we are going to get to that cool footage of the rainbow. But CBC News came out with an interesting one. And like I said, I always try to bring you guys the news articles that are sort of affecting fisheries around the world. So you guys have a place to find it. This stuff is darn hard to find. You got to actually spend time searching and searching to get it. So my goal is to have this as sort of your one-stop shop for this kind of information. And it was an interesting one at sort of 1,000 or even 3,000 foot level, looking at the world in general and the oceans in general, where they've got some major concerns on oxygen levels and looking at the culprits of effluent or stuff going into the ocean from us, and then also a warming trend with the ocean. I don't have anything really to take away from this, but I do recommend looking at it. Keep educated on this. This is a big problem facing the entire world, and it's an easy 5-minute listen. So I'm going to link that in the description below. I'm going to see if I can link it up here, but I'm not sure how we can link to CBC, and we'll see if it works. If there's one up here, we did it right. If there's not, go down to the links in the description. Okay, last one, the fish porn that I promised you guys. One of our guides, Brett, was out in the last week or two here, and he was bead fishing, egg fishing with his fly rod, and he hooked this beautiful fish. It's a stunning example of a rainbow, and some people would consider this a steelhead. I'm about 95% sure that this is a resident rainbow, and the reason I can tell that is from those white tips on the fins. Again, in the comment section down below, if you guys are a scientist or a biologist and have some reason that maybe I'm wrong, I'd love to hear about it. But under my assumption, this is a rainbow trout. But if you can see right here, it has a twitching jig in its face. And it's ironic that the thing was still running around, or kind of cool, it was still running around eating after that. But unfortunately, when Brett took it out, it did have a barb in that twitching jig. And so that's kind of a testament. That twitching jig was probably used a long time prior to that fish being hooked by a bead. And so, friendly reminder, guys, there's no excuse to be fishing barbed hooks on a catch and release system like the Squamish. Double check, triple check. Because the impact you can have on the fish is fairly substantial. All right, all preaching aside, beautiful fish. Brett couldn't actually get a good picture of it, but still kind of fun. Okay, so that wraps it up, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's edition of the Friday Fishing Report. Come down to the shop and visit. Obviously, if you guys are looking for Christmas stuff, I've definitely got to shamelessly pitch that. But if you want to see more videos like this, consider hitting that like button. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you in the next Friday Fishing Report.